Hey, how are we doing? Thanks for listening. Welcome to Your Successful Retirement. A couple of episodes ago, I started talking about kind of preparing for your future healthcare as you age or as your parents age, and kind of being prepared for that and asking some questions. And I alluded during that there are several types of care, and we'll get to that at some point. Guess what? Today we're going to get to that, of the types of care out there, because they're vast, and there's not a set. It's not small, medium, large. You think about sizing of small, medium, large as if you're not small, you're medium. If you're not medium, you're large. It's more a continuum of care these days, because you can start adding and subtracting services to make it really custom for you. And that's awesome, but it still breaks down at about 4 different levels. And I want to talk about that. I was thinking as I was preparing for this, going back 1977, I'm 8 years old. We moved back from Ohio. We lived in Ohio for a time, back to Massachusetts. And my grandmother, my dad's mom, was taking care of her dad. Her parents lived with them my dad's entire life. It was multi-generational back like they used to prior to 1945, say. And at that time, my great-grandfather was blind. He was pretty much sitting in a rocking chair 24/7 if he wasn't in bed. I barely interacted with him, have very little recollection of him. But I do remember that year when we moved back, and maybe just subsequent year, that he was living there, and then he went to a nursing home. And that was the 2 levels of care you had in 1978, 79, was you could get taken care of at home by relatives, or you were going to a nursing home and sitting in a bed. And that was it. There was no real in between. And now there's all of these other choices, and it can get confusing. It can get confusing just on terminology. I remember one of my favorite shows is The Sopranos. So probably every couple of years I'll watch at least the first 3 seasons, because they're funny, and then they get silly after that. And if you ever watch the show, you remember is Tony's mom is getting older. She's getting forgetful. She's getting frail. She's falling. She needs to go to something. She needs to go to what would be construed in this context assisted living. So when we talked about it, you'll remember what that is. And the place's name was Green Grove. I remember that. And they had a lot of activities and things like that, but it was definitely assisted living style. And he said, we need to send you to Green Grove. And she says, I'm not going to that nursing home. And he yells back, it's a retirement community. Oh gosh, I laugh and laugh, possibly because I deal with this all the time. It was more a retirement community than a nursing home. It wasn't a retirement community. It definitely wasn't a nursing home. But, we get these thoughts in our heads of what this looks like, especially when we get to older ages. If you're dealing with parents with these issues, you're going to meet resistance, because the same thing with Tony's mom is there's that thought of, they're going to stick me in a bed and they're going to forget about me. And that's just not the case. There's so much different things. So I want to jump in and focus on the types of care, from probably the least type of care to the most type of care. So we're going to end with nursing homes. And then we're going to finish off with some thoughts to kind of give you some things to think about. Again, there's a lot of process with this. This isn't something you decide overnight. So I want to just focus on that. So at-home care, like my grandmother gave to her dad, still the most minimal amount of care. And for me, I will say home care includes a lot of things that people don't think about as home care. If you have somebody coming and cleaning your house, I'm going to consider that part of home care. It makes it easier to stay in your house. Whether you're 35 or 85, it's just a fact. It's a form of home care. Meals on Wheels is a great service that not every community has it, I don't believe, but a great service where somebody's providing you with a meal that's usually sized to feed you lunch and dinner. They involve a lot of volunteers when they do this, so that you can get some personal interaction. It's not just somebody door dashing food to you on your front step. They come in, they talk to you, they check up on you, make sure everything's okay, just give you some sort of company, especially for people who are by themselves. That's part of home care. It's allowing you to stay in your home. Then you can do some sort of custodial care in terms of whether it's a relative or somebody that's hired, usually somebody that's hired, is where it gets to, that just comes in, keep an eye on you, keep you company, get you moving, get you fed, things of that nature. I remember when my grandmother, again, my dad's mom, after my grandfather passed away, she moved into senior housing, which was just housing. It was just senior housing, but she was getting to that point in her mid 80s that it was harder and harder. She didn't drive. She had never driven. She was of that generation that she just didn't drive. And I think my aunt hired this woman, just this woman, paid her whatever, cash. And she came in several days a week. She would do light shopping for my grandmother. She'd just hang out with her for the day. And that was part of what, that is part of home care. It allowed my grandmother to have a sense of independence. And that's what we're really dealing with. But you can also deal with through a service on a paid basis for somebody to come in, again, just to take care of you, to keep an eye on you, to keep you company, to get you fed, to move you from one place to another if you're having difficulties with moving around, which is clearly what a lot of the issues are when you get to that point. Then you can look at skilled care. And when you think of skilled care is you used to see this on daytime TV. I used to watch the news with my old assistant years ago, during lunch break. And there was this commercial for Bayota, Bogota, something like that, nursing. And it was a nursing company. And this very attractive younger middle-aged nurse is driving through this Florida hurricane, because I remember there were palm trees, Florida hurricane, and this young quadriplegic man with perfectly coiffed hair, he's quadriplegic and perfectly coiffed hair, is he's by himself waiting for this nurse. How did he get his hair perfectly coiffed if he's there by himself? But that's beside the point. And she shows up and he smiles at her and she smiles at him. And that's it. She's there for skilled nursing care. You can have skilled nursing care. So think medical care in your home as well. All of this costs money. So what's it cost? Obviously, if you have a relative taking care of you, it's free. If you're looking at some sort of, custodial care, unskilled care, people just being there to get you around, keep you company, it's anywhere from like $28 to $35 an hour today in 2025, give or take, from the research I did. It is typically a minimum number of hours on a per day basis, usually either 4 or 8, depending on how long they're there. I suspect a lot of the services operate kind of like a police detail. And police details is their 4-hour increments. So if you're there for 4 hours and 2 minutes, it's an 8-hour detail. I would suspect that these are probably somewhat close to that, or at least a minimum of 4 hours, then it's hourly thereafter. So what's that cost? On the low side, maybe $100 a day. On the high side, $300 a day. Just to put this in perspective, $300 a day is over $100,000 a year. It's over $8,000 a month. It gets very expensive very quickly, which is why it becomes difficult to maintain independence if you're in your home, if you have somebody there for that length of time. And we're talking only eight hours a day. If you had 16 hours a day, figure double, it's $200 and something thousand a year. It's ferociously expensive because it's individualized care. So what's the next step? The next step is kind of a half step. And we're talking what's termed senior living. And senior living it's something my folks are dealing with right now. They're in their mid 80s and they're looking at senior living. Senior living is kind of, it's like a condo with activities, but they're kind of there watching out for you. And my folks are at that age where my mom's got back issues, so she can't stand for long periods of time, so she can't cook. My dad is not a great cook. He's better today. He's definitely better today. I'm so impressed at 84 and 3/4 years old. What he can do in the kitchen. It's impressive. When I was probably 9 years old, 9 years old, my mom broke her ankle and it broke it bad, like in the hospital for weeks, surgery, all of that. And my dad comes home from work and is making supper, and he takes out one of those large cans. I don't know if I've told this story before. She takes out one of those remember the large cans of Chef Boyardee ravioli? And my dad is 35 35-ish, 36-ish, something like that. So he should know better. He should know better. He didn't. He didn't. It was a different time. He knew how to make Campbell's soup. So you know where this is going. He takes the can, he opens it up, he pours the large can of ravioli into the pan. He goes over to the sink, fills the can with water, and pours it in. And me and my brother went, just these huge eyes. And he went, oh no. I don't know if we got pizza that night or if he made something else. We definitely did not eat ravioli soup, which would have been awful. I would have just been completely just lost. I would have lost it. Maybe we had peanut butter jelly for all I know, but I don't remember what we had. But that was my dad. Today he cooks a lot better, but he doesn't cook a lot. He doesn't like to eat a lot. So with senior living, it revolves around two things. And these two things can keep you independent: food and activities. And I will tell you, watching hundreds of clients go through this, is the two things you need in order to have longevity outside of, barring significant medical issues. You need to stay active. You need to eat. You need to stay active. You need to eat. It's that simple. So senior living makes sure that my parents get three square meals a day, and they're really good 3 square meals a day. Most senior living type places will have a cafeteria. They will provide that if you need food in your room, they'll deliver it to your room. One of the ones they're looking at has like 3 restaurants. They call them restaurants. There's 3 different food options that you can go to, and there's multiple things within there. Very different from being in a nursing home and getting a tray of food, or being in a hospital and getting a tray of food. It's very upscale in that sense. A lot of activities. Almost all of them I've seen, at least in this area, have pools. Every single one of them has a gymnasium, with all sorts of equipment and bikes and rowing and step machines and all of that, and all of the equipment. They have personal trainers that will come in, again, at additional cost, but they have a personal trainer that'll come directly in there and work with you one-on-one if you want to do that. They have all sorts of trips and outings to get you out and about. They have things like music. They bring people in. They have lessons, things of that nature. They sometimes have an auditorium where they'll have talks. They'll show movies or things like that. I saw one that they were looking at has woodworking. I don't know how sophisticated it is, how big their shop is, but I was pretty impressed. They had art, floral, gardening, all these activities keeping you active. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to stave off that next step. And again, if you need a lot of care, if you're having somebody come in, this may not be an option for you. But if you're at the place where you're thinking, man, I'm at home now, I've got Meals on Wheels coming in, I've got somebody cleaning the house, I really could use something else. This is an interim step to that provides you with immense amounts of independence. If you drive, you can still drive. There's not a problem. There's parking there. There's cars there. All of that. So you maintain a lot of independence, but have some sort of staff that is there. Is usually these are attached to or affiliated with assisted living and or nursing homes. So they have staff that they can slide in and help if there's an emergency that you need some sort of care. But it's an interim step that leaves you with a lot of independence and a lot of activity. What's the cost? $5,000 to $10,000 a month from what I looked at, again, in this region in Massachusetts. The difference is if you're buying in or not, and there's all different types of models to this. Is you're either paying per month. This is what we're going to charge you per month. You'll get this room. If one comes available, we can move in. All of that. And on the lower end is you're buying in. Sometimes you're buying in and you don't get the money back, which is a big deal. Be careful of that. I'll talk about that in a second. Sometimes you're buying in and you'll get paid back, whether it's from the next resident that moves in there or from the facility itself. Is they're just using that and they're taking some of that. They're saying you're going to put up $300,000, $400,000, and it is that much money a lot of times. And we're going to earn interest on that money. And because of that, we can keep the prices a little bit lower because we're earning interest on your money. And when you pass away, we'll hand you back your money. Now, if you don't get your money back, you've got to start doing some real mental gymnastics of, let's say it's $300,000. And let's say it's $5,000 a month versus 10. That's what's that, 60 months? I got to last 5 years here to get my money's worth. Oh, so there's some math involved in this. You want to be careful of that. But again, this can be an option for people to maintain their independence, maybe get more activity than they had at home, probably better meals than they had at home, and better nutrition, but allowing them kind of stave off the next set, because the next set is assisted living. And this is kind of what Green Grove was for Tony Soprano's mom but they were a little bit more active than a lot of assisted living I've seen. Assisted living means you need help. You just need help, and you need to be someplace. It's usually a very small apartment, maybe 2, maybe 3 rooms. You might get a dining, eating area. You'll have a small living area, and usually a bedroom separate, or it'll be all in one room as a studio. And you're not cooking. Let me go back to senior living. Senior living, they will have things like a cooktop and some cooking ability in your room, although you're not really encouraged because you're paying for all of the food that they have for you. You have an ability to cook food and prepare food in your unit if you choose to. But with assisted living, you're looking at not as much food prep, microwave. You might get toaster oven or something like that, but that's about it. A teeny refrigerator to hold some drinks or something. But they don't want you doing all of that prep because you're in a situation where you do need help getting out of bed in the morning, or, getting transferred or getting dressed or things of that nature. Now that's what assisted living is there for, is to engage you in those things. They have, these are activities of daily living, and there's 5 of them: is getting up, getting dressed, eating, transferring, things of that nature. All of that is considered activities of daily living. And it's because you can't do those independently is why you're entering into the assisted living. They do have what are called cognitive units. So somebody may be physically fine, but they may have a cognitive issue, dementia, Alzheimer's, things of that nature. And they have separate units just for that, because you want to kind of keep those people all together. You don't want them to have an ability to kind of wander off, because they can wander off, but they're ferociously more independent in most cases, that they can get around and do things and do activities. And it's a very different environment. They tend to keep that separate because of the unique nature of that. But there is, for cognitive issues, assisted living. You're not required to go to a nursing home just because you have dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that. And that's actually very, very, it improves quality of life because you have that ability to get up and move around and do things. You're not stuck in a hospital-like setting. Meals are included. Like I said, light help is included, getting you up, getting you dressed, getting you back to bed, things of that nature. It's usually limited on a per hour basis, on a daily basis. You can pay for more if you choose to. And this is where that continuum of care starts, is you can pay for more care if you choose to. You can pay for a lot more care if you choose to. It costs a lot more. So assisted living starts around probably $8,000 a month, might go to $12,000 or $13,000 a month, not including additional. I did have a client that was paying over $20,000 a month just for round the clock care, because that's what she wanted. And she had the resources to do so. So they paid the facility $8,000 or $9,000, and then they paid an additional $20,000 a month for her to have 24-hour care, because that's what she wanted. That was her goal, was to stay as independent as possible later in life. And it worked out well. She passed away quietly in her sleep, all of that. And she got to maintain that quality of life. The point of the assisted living is to maintain that. But it can be expensive. $8,000 a month is about $100,000 a year. So about the same as having an 8-hour shift of somebody coming into your house is the same as assisted living. They're about equal in cost. Again, those will change as you need more hours of care on a per week basis, but that's kind of where the balance is. I have seen people be in assisted living and still have some independence. I had a client who went in 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic. And he wound up keeping his car for a time until he got sick. He got COVID during the pandemic and passed away, unfortunately. But he was ferociously independent before then, but needed a little bit extra care. And that was important for him. So that's what we have for that. So the last one, the one we all know, the one we all picture in our heads, especially if you're over the age of, say, 60 or 65, is the dreaded nursing home. And nobody wants to go. It's like, no, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go. Nursing homes are full of people. So clearly people are going. And people are making that decision is at, at that stage, or the decisions being made for them. It's full custodial care. And a lot of times you are bedridden or have very limited mobility. They do provide nursing care in addition to custodial care. Custodial care is like just taking care of you. Nursing care is kind of medical care. They kind of stick it together. So, things like administering medicine, checking on bandages, things of that nature, they can do. They're going to bill it separately, going to bill your health insurance for that. But that is possible. There's minimal activities at a nursing home. Minimal. They're all in-house. They're not taking you out for an outing. If they do, it's a surprise. It is, for the most part, everything is there. They'll bring people in. They'll bring a musician or a group in. They may show a film, something of that nature. They'll do some light crafts or things like that, but it's very limited because of the nature of the people that are in there in the first place. It's not very mobile, not very active type of people. They do have, again, memory and cognitive issues, facilities rather, that deal with that. Typically it's a separate wing or a separate facility just because of the unique nature of those patients. So you do have that as well. What's the cost? $12,000 to $16,000 minimum, a lot more for cognitive, just the same as with assisted living, as cognitive care is very, very expensive because you need a lot more staff and that costs money. So you're dealing with a cost that's fantastically great, but the care is there, and that's what's important. So those are the four levels and kind of how they slide through. I want to kind of leave you with four thoughts. I got no conclusions for you, but I want you to start thinking, whether it's you or whether it's an older relative, these are the things you need to start thinking about. Don't have a set plan. You don't know what's going to happen. I've seen so many people that have a plan of, oh, I'm definitely doing X. Your medical situation is going to dictate what level of care you need. You may stay in your house for a long, long time until you're a very ripe old age and then pass away quietly in your sleep. I have a client, he's 93, I believe, this year. Still at home, stands a little bit slower. He's a lot a bit slower than he was 20 years ago. And his wife is younger than him, so that definitely helps. But stands still at home. You don't know. You can't plan for it. You want to be aware of these options. You want to be aware of the costs of these options, but don't make a plan because you don't know what's going to happen to you. Second one, and this is vital. Medicaid. So people talk about Medicaid. Oh, Medicaid will pay for that. Medicaid pays for nursing homes only. Only. They do not pay for assisted living. They definitely do not pay for home care, and they're never going to pay for senior living. They pay for nursing homes only. So if you're doing a whole lot of work, or an attorney or an advisor is telling you to do a whole lot of work to hide money so that the nursing home doesn't take it, only the nursing home can take it. If you don't want to go to a nursing home, if you want home care, if you want assisted living, you're going to need those resources because nobody else is going to pay for that. You're paying for it. So the third one, relying on Medicaid, if you're married, will bankrupt your spouse. It just will. You're either going to hide the money or turn it into something and make it very difficult for that spouse to have access to any funds whatsoever. And you're going to bankrupt them. You're going to make them live in poverty. You need to think about that, is how important is it to preserve the asset? And probably in a subsequent podcast, maybe a couple months from now, maybe 4 or 5 episodes from now, we'll talk about some of the things you should be thinking about in terms of the planning when you start planning for long-term care. But this is one of those things, is if you're doing Medicaid planning, you may bankrupt your spouse. They may be home eating tuna fish and peanut butter and jelly, to take care of you because we're trying to get the state to take care of you. So be aware of that. Last one, are you trying to preserve money for your kids? And there's no right answer to this. There's no right answer. But are you? Some people, it's very important. It's very, very important for them to leave money to their children. That no, I want to make sure that no matter what, that the money goes to them. Other people look at it as, this is my money. I earned it. I built this wealth. I'd like my kids to have it, but if I need to spend this money on my own care, I'm going to spend this money on my own care. And there's a whole bunch of places in between. One last quick story. I had a client who passed away recently, and she's been a client for a long, long time. And several of her kids are also clients. She has 7 children. And when she needed care, which was a number of years ago, and she was like the outlier, that she was in a care facility, assisted living, for a lot longer than you'd normally expect. I think she went in early. She was not that, she didn't need it, but senior living wasn't as popular as it is now. So she wound up going to this assisted living facility for a number of years. And to a person, all 7 of those kids said, and mom had decent means. Whatever it costs, we care more about mom than we do about ourselves. We're not looking to profit off of mom and cause her to have less care than she could in order for us to get money when she passes away. Every single one of those 7. And with 7, that's a lot. I will say that. Is not to say that, you'll get a rotten kid every once in a while, but I find if you have 5 or more kids, there's difficulty with the relationship between the parents and one of those kids almost always. And that's not the case with this family. It's an amazing family. It's awesome to watch. And yeah, those kids, to a person, said, no, that's mom's money. That is mom's money. And if she blows all of it on her own care, I'm okay with that. And that took a lot of pressure off everybody so that mom could get the care she needed. And she did. And it was awesome. So those are the types of things I want rolling around your head. If you have other questions, which you may have, I encourage you to reach out. You can jump down in the show notes. You can get in touch with us via our website or via our LinkedIn. You can also just email me, dennis@successfulmoney.com. That's it. It's that simple. You can find that on the website, but just as easy to email me. If you have questions about this for yourself, I encourage you, reach out. This is a complicated matter. This is difficult for people to go through. We have done this over and over again. This is something we do. It's a specialty. But with that, hope you have a good day and stay safe out there.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Remember, the views expressed are not necessarily those of Successful Money Strategies. All content is for educational purposes only and should not be construed as an endorsement of any third party or their views, or as a solicitation or offer to sell securities or provide investment, tax, legal, or consulting services. We believe the information presented to be reliable, but it is not guaranteed for accuracy or completeness. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Hypothetical returns do not reflect actual trading and may not be indicative of the performance of any specific investment. Always consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Additional information, including management fees and expenses, is provided on our Form ADV Part 2, available upon request, or at the SEC's Investment Advisor Public Disclosure website, https://advisorinfo.sec.gov.